Hello, Cedric Kennedy here, CR Wrestling Commentary, and um, look, I want to talk about Konnan and Disco Inferno on their podcast, Keeping It 100. I listen to them from time to time, and I listened and heard what could be one of the most oddest contradictions that they've made. Is I think it's all on the same program, but it's different uploads. So, on one hand, in one they talked to, I can't remember, another one about Jim Cornette, and it's not making me defend Jim Cornette, it's making me talk about them, I guess. That's but yeah, the first one is it's called CM Punk's Real Life Heat with Eric Bischoff. And in that one, that's where they talk about how AEW and WWE are so vastly apart in terms of money, drawing power, and things like that. And they talk about everything that Jim Cornette mentions. Okay? They talk about how the matches are laid out badly. They're doing stunts instead of anything else. The storylines are either, for them, too long, or they're not working with certain people. So they're talking about that. They got the same premise, but different targeted, partnership within the company. So that's what they're talking about. So, okay, they find all the flaws of AEW just like Jim Cornette. However, in the next one, which is called Jim Cornette's Bad Reputation in the Industry, then they talk bad, like how Jim Cornette is burning bridges and hurting people, how he insults them. He doesn't like Omega, he doesn't like the Bucks for all and others for all the stuff that they've done outside that would technically expose the business and whatnot. And then say the line that he has to understand that things aren't the way they were back in the 60s and 70s. And this is changed. It's new. It's a new thing. This is where we are today. And he needs to just understand and get with that on how people are today when it comes to modern wrestling. So you can't critique modern wrestling on the same things, more or less, as Jim Cornette, and then talk about all the bad that Jim Cornette has done as the same thing. You can't have it both ways. You just can't. You just cannot. AEW, with all of their flaws, they're holding on to their niche audience. And they're going to be there for a long time. And they may get new ones here and there, but they're not going to like it over WWE. We get this. But AEW, everything that Jim Cornette has actually said bad about them, more or less, yeah, is true. And certain things he needs to let go, because it's, instead of downing it, he needs to express how to make it better. And if Cornette really wants a better show, if he wants AEW to do better, then he would contact Tony Khan and others and peaceably explain how to get things better, how to get the national audience in the seat and not your niche audience to stay in the seat. You've got your 900,000 sprinkled 800,000, sometimes 700,000 and 600,000 that's going to be loyal. So their bottom barrel lease is about 600,000, and then when someone new shows up or a certain pay-per-view or certain matchup, then they get up to that 900,000 or maybe even 1 million people. When WWE gets slightly more than that consistently, not just pay-per-views or people coming into the business or into the company, they get it consistently. So they've got their audience trained and whatnot. AEW just has an audience that has trained wrestlers. That's the difference. WWE says, this is what we're going to present to you. Like it or not, you're going to love us because you grew up on us. AEW is more like, indie lovers, here we are. Now we can bring your indie lovers to the mainstream. The indie style, the indie people, we're here. So mainstream versus sub scene. is basically it. And Jim Cornette calls out these differences, and he calls them out on both shows. So, and like I said, I want to disagree on certain things that Jim Cornette say because it makes me want to pull the rest of my hair out. But there are a lot of stuff, and they talk about Jim Cornette being smart, a genius. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. And then say, but he has to adjust to the change. And as Cornette even said, change is good, but not when change hurts the business. Changing my clothes daily is all right. It's not that I change my clothes. It's what I put on that makes the difference. And that's what they're talking about. So you can't jump on his back and say, these are, the great things you do. And then on that same back say, hey, you're messing up in the same ways. Yeah, Jim Cornette attacks people because back in his day, once you screw up that badly, you're done. You're done. You're fired, basically. From wrestling. At least from that territory or whatnot. If you are running a business and your business is, let's say, honestly, just throwing it out there, solar panels. Okay, and you find that one of your employees are making the solar panels way too big for what's allowed to be held, you're going to be like, hey, what's wrong? You're making them 14 centimeters too big. And they say, look, man, we need more light. We need more energy. This is how it's done. It's modern. Are you going to be like, you know what? You're right. Let's go with what you're saying. Or are you going to be like, this is the policy. This is the way. There's better ways to enact change. You're not doing it. And you're certainly undermining me right now to my face. You're done. So they keeping it 100 need to keep it 100. I like them, but I'm going to call them out when they do stuff like this.